Hi, I thank you so much for this program because as a nurse educator, I get calls from family and friends, some of whom have no health care coverage and they have no teaching, and so I've done my best to try to guide them without practicing medicine. And my sister called the other day and her blood sugar was extremely high. And I'm thanking you because today I found that diabetes is reversible.
Welcome to the show. Today we continue with our mini-series, Bad Sugar with a Live Audience. And with me today I have Dr. Rashidi, Dr. Reddy, Dr. Brinegar, and Dr. Carpenter.
My question is if you have damaged liver, and we know that the glucose is stored in the liver, or for whenever you use it, is it a possibility that you would have out of control diabetes related to your damaged liver?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Dr. Reddy, go ahead.
Yes, the liver, as you rightly said, stores glucose, and liver also metabolizes glucose in part. There are different pathways that glucose goes through to the liver. So when you have significant liver damage, what we call end-stage liver disease, your sugars can be a lot roller coaster. They're particularly prone for hypoglycemia at night. So you have to be very careful to make sure that they have a good high protein containing meal at night to sustain the blood sugars. You want to avoid medications later in the evening or night. Of course, they have to stay off alcohol because then that does a double number on them in reducing the blood sugars.
What effect does alcohol have on a person who has diabetes?
Alcohol and medications for diabetes are really not compatible.
Very difficult to reverse diabetes or get control of diabetes if you're using alcohol. And, you know, if there are special occasions where you have to have a small portion, you know, you really need to keep it to a small portion.
For diabetics, some of the complications are neuropathy and retinopathy. What's the possibility of reversing that process or stabilizing that process? And what is considered tight glucose control?
Dr. Brinegar.
The answer is, first of all, that you can stabilize retinopathy and neuropathy and even nephropathy, which is the kidney disease of diabetes. A study called the Diabetes Control and Complication Trial, published in about 1993, demonstrated this quite well with type 1 diabetics, that if you control blood glucose levels at or near normal, that you could definitely stabilize those complications. The reversing of them is a little bit more problematic. There are some evidence to suggest that you can reverse a certain portion, but never back to normal. And then you ask the question about what would be the ideal blood sugar.
Blood sugar?
Yeah, for considered tight control.
Yeah, tight control would be somewhere between 70 to 120 before meals and no more than 140 2 hours after meals. And with a hemoglobin A1C, an A1C, which is a measurement of blood sugar average over the preceding 3 months, should be at 6.5 or less, ideally. Less than 6 is normal, but we feel that if you're on medications, particularly insulin, that it would be a great accomplishment to get it down below 6.
Now, Dr. Carpenter, you smiled when he said that.
I wish I hadn't.
Why is that?
It's difficult.
Yes, it is.
Maintaining tight control. It's not easy at all. And if you're an active person, the young lady who is an athlete, and it will really struggle with that, and I do the same thing. And having low blood sugar is very uncomfortable, so I tend to keep my blood sugars a little higher.
Next question.
With diet and exercise, if you're going to change your diet, what kind of meals should you prepare? And what kind of spices would, if you're going to reduce the salt, what kind of spices or herbs would make the meal taste better and kind of take the place of that salt?
Well, before we talk about herbs, you know, with regards to diabetes and a balanced diet, the focus is really a balanced diet. And well, what I would recommend, because it's very individualized, okay, we have recommendations, but it's very individualized. I would really recommend you sit with a dietitian so they can teach you how to count your carbohydrates. And talking about the kinds of herbs to use, what do you have to say?
Well, I would say that, first of all, and a simple rule of thumb is eat as close to the way the food comes to you in nature as possible. You can't eat fruit all day, as wonderful as it is. And I suggest to my patients, for every one fruit, I want you to eat 4 vegetables. And eat good protein foods that are lean, like chicken, turkey, fish, occasional beef, but let it be real lean beef. Carbohydrates, you really have to be minimal on carbohydrates as a diabetic.
And I would focus on complex carbs,
Grain,
the whole
whole
wheat,
grain.
the grains, wheat.
Exactly.
Right. And with regards to the proteins, I would focus more on plant-based proteins like the beans, the legumes, and things like that. And omega-3 fatty acid is excellent for a diabetic. I would recommend like 2 to 3 servings of fish, about 3 ounces, maybe 2 to 3 times a week. That is also recommended to help with inflammation. Anything you want to add to that, Dr. Reddy, as far as the nutrition?
Again, I agree. It has to be very individualized.
Yes.
You have to sit down and let them know your likes and dislikes. I
Yes.
think a basic caveat is there's no food item or group that is an absolute no-no. You know, we have divided food groups into 3 lists. Things that are low calorie, which you can have plenty of, that are moderate calorie and moderate amount of health that you have moderation, and those that are high in fat or sugars that you have small portions.
Right. And Loistin, you asked the question. Loistin, where are you? Could you please stand? You asked the question about the balanced diet. You bought the entire Bad Sugar TV series. I know you haven't had time to watch. It's 7 hours. Episodes 3, 4, and 5, the dietitian walks you through the food groups, how to manipulate the carbohydrate counting. So please, watch it. You will learn a lot from that. So it's great that you bought it, because that will really help you.
At 62, I find an interesting thing. I rest. In the afternoon, I lay down and rest. It doesn't have to be a long time, but I do it, and it refreshes me. And Jesus did that. He went up on the mountain. The whole crowd is happening. Things are busy. They were calling him. And we think we're like, we gotta go, we gotta do, we gotta be. No, get away and rest, renew your body, restore yourself, and you can go on with that. I find rest is so important. And I still go to bed at night. I'm not up all night, but I rest.
Life is simply a matter of balance. You know, going overboard can be a problem. You can't eat leaves every day and expect to be healthy. You can't, just drink water because water is good for you and be healthy. It's a matter of being balanced in every way. Adding, eating a good spectrum of food, I should say, eating a good variety of food, I should say, eating, being healthy, being balanced in that you add activities to your daily routine. Also, I would say that, you try to, even improving your mind by reading books, good books, and all those things can definitely improve your life and make you a happier person, I should say.
I think you just need to go back to the old snacks of an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's silly, but it really makes a lot of sense. I remember my grandmother always used to make me eat an apple, and I never understood why, because I'd be out playing and running, and I didn't care. I was hungry. So if you make it attractive to them, I still don't think you should ask. I think you should still tell them this is what you need to eat, and then it's not a question. It's just a habit. I have a couple of people that I work with that candy isn't a big deal to their kids because that's what they're used to is, the apples with a little peanut butter so it's neat to see that.
In talking about herbs, I wanted to know whether or not, I haven't heard a lot about sea salt, and I'm told that sea salt is more healthy for you and it's okay to have. And when we're limiting sodium, would sea salt be an alternative? And then, and talking about alternatives even for like having water to be able to be released from your body, I'm told that you could have a teaspoon of vinegar and a glass of water, and all of that helps to flush water out of your system. And I just wanted you to address that, because sometimes with swelling, these are things that we think about that may help us to have the swelling to be relieved.
Right. Dr. Rashidi?
Well, sea salt is salt, and it still contains sodium, which is the main mineral that causes the effect. So I wouldn't use it as a direct substitute. You still have to maintain your 2,400 milligrams per day, especially if you're also watching blood pressure and fluid retention problems. I'm not familiar with the benefits of vinegar allowing you to act as a diuretic, but it does very much benefit your digestion and do other good things for you.
And one thing I want to say, I know we have all these questions and it's great. You have to change your mindset, the way you really look at health, and really maintain a positive outlook. That will really help to reduce stress. And we have research now showing that people who have positive mindset can change the biochemistry of their brain and reduce stress. And we know that stress hormones work against insulin. Right. So if you have diabetes or have a predisposition, please laugh more, reduce stress, think positive, okay? And just embark on a healthy lifestyle. All of those things are very, very helpful.
If you don't have the regular 3 Ps of diabetes, polydipsia, polyphagia, polyuria, but your blood sugar, fasting blood sugar is 180, does that mean that you have diabetes?
Dr. Brenniger?
Yes. The polyuria, which means increased urination, polydipsia, increased thirst, and then polyphagia, increased eating, but maybe without weight gain. Those are really atypical symptoms in the sense that most diabetics don't present with those classic signs and symptoms of diabetes. Most diabetics will be discovered on a coincidental exam. One needs to be aware that the diagnosis of diabetes is not based upon how you feel, and the care of diabetes is not based upon how you feel. In other words, to ask a person, how's your diabetes doing, and if they say, I feel fine, wrong response.
Right.
So if you have a blood sugar that's 126 or more fasting, that's diabetes. If it's 126 even. The numbers are very specific. And certainly a 180 would very much qualify. Now, a random blood sugar that is done any time during the day, irregardless of how it relates to a meal, it needs to be 200 or more to be diabetes. The 180 would not qualify under those circumstances, but no doubt that person might have an elevated blood sugar fasting or on a glucose tolerance test.
Next question?
Yes, I would like to know if diabetes, are they hereditary?
Yes.
Genes play a very important role. Certain ethnic races are predisposed to diabetes. The African Americans, the Hispanics, and Native Americans. And they're also more predisposed to complications from diabetes as opposed to Caucasians.
But again, the message, it does not mean you will have it.
When you say good food, describe to me what you mean by that.
I think good food is simply getting a balanced diet. That includes, eating your grains, I suppose, having lots of fruits and vegetables, putting lots of nuts in there, drinking lots of water, of course, to go along with that. And I think that should pretty much take care of it. Of course, avoiding junk food, that's one of the biggest ones.
High on fruits and vegetables, you want a lot of fiber and all the natural vitamins and minerals and all that stuff. Meat is okay, it's not necessary all the time, and kind of avoid red meat more so. Some meats are better, and also the way they're cooked is important too. Sodium, well, the thing, we add a lot of stuff into the food, a lot of preservatives and things, and I guess in my mind that's the biggest thing about healthy eating is all the stuff that we add. So even when we have things that are supposedly natural foods, and then when we go and add all these preservatives into it, then that's kind of taking away a lot of the point, because we're just putting things in our body that weren't supposed to be there to begin with.
Any particular foods help with your digestive system?
Really, a lot of broccoli, greens, and beans, and that's about all vegetarian stuff. I really don't eat meat.
Fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, I don't eat meat, so where do I get my protein? I get it from protein isolate, meaning nothing in that container but protein. That's all that's in there. And it's bodybuilding, but not bodybuilding. It's bodybuilding, but it's healthy.
I eat a lot of pasta. I try and have vegetables or fruit at least with every meal. Like I say, on my works, on breaks and stuff, I eat vegetables, whatever I can, tangerines, apples, whatever I can. I eat a lot of tomatoes. I love tomatoes, so I eat a lot of tomatoes. Like I say, I just try and eat, like pasta, salads, just as healthy as I can. I don't just try and stay away from burgers and all that other good stuff, but it's good, but it's bad for you, so I try and stay away from that.
Just staying away from certain fried foods. That's better on our body, and it does prevent like diabetes, certain diseases, because you eat a lot of fried food or just meat that's not cooked well.
Next question.
I've been in the medical field now about 8 years, and what I find more prevalent is that we are discussing diabetes, and it's becoming a prevalent topic. But why do you think it is so difficult for people with diabetes to adhere to their diets as opposed to other people who have maybe cardiac problems or degenerative diseases?
That is an excellent question. And I think in my experience, and I will ask your views here, I find that my patients with diabetes are very, very difficult to deal with. So what do you want to add to that, Dr. Rashidi?
Well, first of all, I think that you need to realize that diabetes is, and I'm sure Dr. Reddy would agree, is a mixture of many different hormone imbalances in the body. And for example, type 2 diabetics typically have an elevated insulin. And that insulin then can be causing your blood sugars to go up and down. And your brain is registering this, and it doesn't know whether to feed you or starve you, but mostly it says, well, just eat.
Yeah.
And so it's working against you.
Right.
You're not getting blood sugar is not going into your muscle where it creates a feeling of energy. So you feel tired. Therefore, it's really hard to motivate yourself to exercise.
Absolutely.
And while I work with my patients to do this as drug-free as possible, in a newly diagnosed diabetic, I'll often treat them very aggressively at the beginning with medication so that they can remember what feeling good feels like. Because when their blood sugar is running around 180 or 200, they don't feel good. They don't even remember what feeling good felt like.
Dr. Reddy?
Yeah, I think that's very important. You've got to look at physiology, which Dr. Rashidi has outlined so nicely. And the second is the psychosocial aspect. You have a patient who's newly diagnosed with diabetes. Either the tears run down their face or it's that sense of doom. I have diabetes. I cannot eat what I want to. My whole life is destroyed. And I think you kind of have to emphasize a part of that is we are to blame because of the initial data that we had. We would say don't eat this and don't eat that being a diabetic, which we have now realized with time are wrong principles that we were imparting to the patient. So there is a sense of responsibility on our part for the false information. You need to reassure them that being a diabetic doesn't mean your whole life has changed. You know, it is a question of making small changes in a stepwise fashion over a period of time. And normally you see these patients a year down the road, they are much happier because they realize it's not inevitable, it's not a death sentence. I'm still alive today, I'm doing the things that's important, that's fun for me, and I'm still able to carry on with my life with some few changes, which we all need to make in different aspects of our life from time to time.
Dr. Bruniger, what do you have to say about adherence? And I mean, I agree with what Dr. Reddy and Rashidi are saying here. You know, we still have cases that the patients are on medication, in some cases, you know, stabilized, yet they still find lifestyle practices to be a joke. They're like, I'll just take the pill, I won't exercise. Well, it's a waste of time. If you're just going to take the pill, you need to exercise. You need to learn how to eat well. Because otherwise, like you said in the series, it's like a bucket
with a hole.
With a hole, you know? Go ahead.
Let me say a few things before adherence, and I'll make this brief.
Right.
I think, who was it that asked that question? Back there? Yeah. I think part of it is related to the cookie jar philosophy. You know, you ask, why is it so difficult to follow a diet that is, quote, low in sugar or low in fat? And it's because you're not allowed to do that, meaning that that's what you've been told. But the reality of it is that there are no good foods and no bad foods for diabetics. And I'd like you to think about that a minute. There are no good foods and no bad foods. It has to do with balance and consistency.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think everyone has been saying in one way or another, and that it isn't the elimination of a particular food, it's the portion size, it's the amount of it. When you ask a person if they were to go to Marie Callender's during this time of the year, when marionberries have come down so plentifully from Oregon, and if you can have a luscious marionberry pie with a scoop of Haagen-Dazs ice cream on it, do you think you could have that whole piece of pie? No. But you could share this maybe with 3 other people, and along with that have a turkey pot pie which has some protein in it. And so it would help to mix in so that it slows down the absorption of the sugar that you might get in the pie. So the answer to me is looking at it from the standpoint of not eliminating any particular food, but having balance and consistency.
Great.
And as far as adherence is concerned, you know the difference between adherence and compliance. Compliance means that I have set up the program as a physician, and you need to follow it. Adherence meaning you set up the program, and you need to adhere to it if you want to come out looking good at the end. And so adherence is an important part.
Before I take your question, let me talk to Dr. Carpenter, being a diabetic. What do you think about adherence? That is a touchy topic.
I think a lot about adherence, and again, I'm going to go back to the family of diabetics and having the proper foods around the house. I'm a stress eater. I've got a lot of stress, and there are times when I'll give in to that. Now, I pay the price for that, and it takes a while to get back in the game, but I get back in the game because I know I have to. But there are times when you don't care.
Yeah.
And if you have this stuff around the house because you like chocolate, like my wife does, you know, and I know where her stash is if I want to go there. So I think it's good that you have the right foods around the house, and if somebody a diabetic is going to give in, that you have better things for them to eat, and I'm sure you could counsel us on that tact. And
I am Ruth Tanyi, producer of the award-winning TV series called Bad Sugar. Do you have diabetes? Know someone who has diabetes? Unfortunately, all of us do. So listen carefully to what others are saying about the Bad Sugar DVDs.
I have type 2 diabetes, and I've had that for probably 30 years.
I've had diabetes since 1995.
I've watched all of the Bad Sugar series.
I have had diabetes since 1998.
I've watched the TV series Bad Sugar.
I'm a type 1 diabetic, and it's taught me how I can expand my lifestyle. It's taught me spiritually how to monitor my stress.
They clarified everything that the doctor was saying, but at a more slower pace, and to me, a very understanding pace to understand diabetes.
Oh, I thought I knew, but I didn't. I had little knowledge, but that series expounded my knowledge.
For me, Bad Sugar have played a major, major, major important role in my life to control, to educate, and to teach others about diabetes.
It showed how God operates through us and how we need to connect with God in order to make sure that those sugars operate the way that they're supposed to.
Bad Sugar.
Do you have questions about nutrition and diabetes? What to eat, what to avoid, counting carbohydrates? What about the glycemic index? Or questions about proteins, fibers, fruits, vegetables, fats? Or do you have questions about exercise, stress, spirituality, and diabetes? Or do you want to prevent diabetes complications? The Bad Sugar DVDs will give you the answers you are looking for.
There was things out there that I didn't know, and since I watched Bad Sugar, it's given me a lot of information that will help me further out.
Type 2 diabetes affects a lot of different things in your body, which I never knew about until I saw the episodes 7, 8, and 9.
It's taught me about nutrition, it's taught me spirituality, and it's taught me how to live my life and enjoy myself longer.
I was able to reduce my medicine, and that's due to the fact of the bad sugar.
Call 1-866-257-3471. Operators are standing by. Or log on to PreventiveCareWeekly.com and place your order.
Okay, now you know all about the Bad Sugar Diabetes DVDs. Get them for yourself and they will change your life.
To order a DVD, go to our website, PreventiveCareWeekly.com.
What's your question?
Can a person who's a diabetic go on a fast for cleansing?
As a diabetic, it's actually a no, because your medication balance is upset, your hormones are upset on the day you fast. Your blood sugars go for a toss. You're very prone for hypoglycemia on the day you fast. A lot of it depends on the number of hours you want to do it and what is it involved in that. You should talk to your doctor about it. If it's something that is short for a few hours, and then that's okay. It's like a procedure, a patient going in for a procedure, they're not allowed to eat for the procedure, then we can accommodate for that and tell you what you need to do. But if it's an ongoing thing that every week, a day you fast, or every month there are days that you fast, then that really upsets the whole system and the balance.
Last question.
I've heard you talk about the different cravings that you have. Is an excessive need for sugar a bad sign?
It definitely indicates a hormonal imbalance, and it could indicate that you run high levels of insulin. It could also mean that you're running high levels of adrenaline associated with stress. Glucose is very important to the brain. You cannot think straight if your blood sugar is going up and down.
Absolutely.
And it literally will ruin your ability to control anything.
Well, Doctor, before we wrap up, any final thoughts about what's happening in the world of herbs and diabetes, quickly?
The one good habit you need to have is exercise.
Couple of final thoughts. I think I would like to focus. One take-home message is portion size.
This should give hope to someone who has the belief that it is inevitable that complications occur. In the early 70s, I saw a gentleman that developed diabetes in 1923 at 3 months of age in February of that year. And he'd been on insulin ever since, and 69 years later, he had no complications from diabetes. So whatever the genes are, the protector genes that some people are blessed in getting, these individuals had those. And anyone can at least hope that that's what happens to them if they take good care of themselves.
Right. Excellent. Dr. Carpenter, final thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Exercise is a critical point, and family involvement, of course.
Oh, excellent. I want to thank all of you for being here today. Diabetes is a huge growing topic, continues to grow. We are learning every day in clinical practice, and we did not touch half of it. But the Bad Sugar DVDs, the Bad Sugar TV series covers a broad range of diabetes, 13 episodes. So if you want to learn more, you can get the DVDs. And I thank you so much for watching. And my take-home message is you can reverse type 2 diabetes, and you can prevent type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes. Take control of the disease. And remember, most importantly, lifestyle practices. For more information, PreventiveCareWeekly.com. See you on the next episode. Goodbye.
This program is not intended to be diagnostic or prescriptive. Please consult with your doctor or healthcare provider before adopting any of the lifestyle changes or other measures discussed in this program. We do not recommend any medication changes. Rather, patients should seek medical advice from their doctors or healthcare providers.